Hey Bandidos, this is the brand new assault rifle we got in Year 5, Season 2, 2023 of The Division 2. We're gonna break it down with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and get you some really good builds you can use right now. Let's do this. Bandidos, this is the brand new assault rifle. It's called the Born Great, and it's based off of the G36. It comes with the perfect talent. Let's look at this beast. So first of all, it comes with a full set of mods here. And I just got some basic crit mods, and I'm putting on the scope here so you can see more details on how it shoots. And then I got a standard large mag. It also comes with a cool skin called High Fiber, and that's what I have equipped here. It's pretty darn neat. All right, so good base damage on this thing. On the higher end of RPMs with a mag of 50, which we like. It's got assault rifle, health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. You have to add that. The accuracy is pretty decent. The stability is pretty decent, as well as the reload time is on par with assault rifles, which isn't great. 2 seconds, right? I have striker gear on, so that is impacting that just a little bit. And then the damage drop off is actually really nice at 100 meters. Very good, making it a great weapon for legendary. The talent, let's take a close look now at this bad boy. It's called Perfect Stabilize. So firing your weapon increases weapon accuracy by 1% and weapon stability by 1% per shot, up to 75%. That's pretty high. So 75% stability and accuracy. If you stop firing, the bonuses reset after 6 seconds. So you can reload, you can throw skills, you can do whatever. But you got 6 seconds to shoot again. And if you don't, then you lose all your stacks and have to start all over. So 75 rounds on a 50 round mag. All right, so let me show you how it works. Pretty straightforward, I gotta say. So I'm just gonna pull in on this target. So you can see the meter at the bottom, it is growing. And we got a reload in there. So now we're at full. And then from this point forward, we can maintain. Now, what's cool about this is that you don't actually have to shoot a target to build those stacks or to maintain them. Pretty darn neat. Another really interesting thing is to even refresh, you just have to put one bullet out and you get your 6 second timer back. So that's all you have to do to maintain it, is just put out a shot once every 6 seconds. Pretty easy, and that's actually very fantastic. It also makes a really interesting blind fire weapon, because you got 75% stability and accuracy. Your handling is quite good, and you can really nail some good headshots here while in cover. That makes it a great legendary weapon also, or when you're being pressed in heroic. So at 5 meters, you're gonna notice it's pretty much a laser beam, as you would expect. And then here's 10 meters. It does progressively get more difficult to land shots on the head the deeper the target is. The recoil pattern is quite unique, I gotta say, on this weapon. And it is different depending on which weapon you choose. So keep that in mind. So that's 15 meters, pretty easy. And then 20 meters. Of course, these targets are not moving. And there's at 20 meters. And you can see I'm fighting it a little bit more there. So you are gonna have more missed shots. It's a little bit of a fight there, mostly off to the right. And that's because of the recoil pattern. Let's show that, okay? So first, let's let it completely expire. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in. So I'm ADSing, but I'm not gonna control the shot. So the zoom in is just for you to be able to see the recoil pattern better here. So there it is, it's climbing in stability and accuracy, and then takes a hard turn to the right, like a 90-degree angle. It has a pretty standard trajectory, the recoil pattern here, until the talent is fully buffed. And once the talent's fully buffed, it takes a hard turn to the right. And so you can see the tight clustering of shots there, as in the beginning, there's more of a bullet spread. And so that's the accuracy part. So the accuracy up here really clusters those shots nice and tight, and then the stability makes it turn to the right. So that's really interesting, and that's what I'm fighting. It's not necessarily a good thing, I gotta say. So at deep distances, that's, you know, where we're just really accustomed to fighting vertical rises, and so a horizontal rise is a little bit more difficult to fight. As you can see right there, now that I got my buffs, it really wants to pull to the right pretty hard. Same turn that we're experiencing right here. So when you're looking at improving your shots on target, the Division 2 gives you a few options from the weapon talent perspective. I have the Born Great here on the right, and then I have the Born Out on the left, which is a very tough competitor for the Born Great, I must say. So the Burnout is based on the FAMAS. It's the name FAMAS, and we know that the FAMAS is one of the strongest assault rifles or weapons in the game from a DPS perspective. It's got a 101 base damage, 1035 RPMs with a 50 round mag. I have have Striker on here, so it's helping that a little bit on the RPMs, but it does have a slightly faster reload. And of course, the damage drop off isn't as good as well. But from a talent perspective, perfect on empty is what this one comes with, and that's quite appealing. So reloading from empty grants 40% weapon handling for 10 seconds. So there is a timer on that. However, that 40% weapon handling includes stability and accuracy. It's not 75%, but 40 is pretty good. And it includes reload speed, which is really, really important when it comes to saving your butt in some legendary circumstances or heroic, as well as bridging those mags together for greater sustained damage. So faster reloads is really appealing for fast gameplay. And this is going to be a really tough one for the Born Great to beat. And so that's the Born Great recoil pattern. And let's do a direct comparison. So you have to reload on empty, so there's no benefit there. And now we have it. And as you can see, it tightens up those shots a lot. So we'll do 3 mags on this one. And there we have it. That's our recoil pattern. It is up and to the right, pretty typical. And then once it kicks in, which is right about here, you can see that it really tightens up. And when you're suppressed, you know, this could be a little bit more difficult to maintain. You could have a lot of missed shots when blind firing. It's not going to do as good as this weapon does in blind firing. This one's missing all the benefit on the first mag. So as far as talent uptime goes, I would say it probably goes to the G36 or the Born Great. When it comes to overall damage improvement, it's probably going to come down to this one. Depending on your performance, this is going to be a little bit more on you, but you're going to get the 40% stability and accuracy, but you're also going to be bridging those magazines closer together, and that's going to help you put out a lot more damage. But you still have to land those shots. Accuracy and stability stats can't do it all for you. Whether you have 75 or 40, it's still going to be on you on landing those shots and choosing which target you're shooting at. It's going to be a close call on which weapon is actually better from a stat perspective, but overall, the user is going to override the difference most likely.
Hey Bandidos, the community we have built together wouldn't have been possible without you. So as a thank you for supporting my channel, I am bringing you the hookup on member perks, including even more Division 2 content and the celebrated gaming music playlists. If you're not part of Tux's Players Club, now is your chance.
So another competitor is the Glory Days, which I have here on the left. It's the P416, and it's basically the same weapon as the G36. They're very similar, just a little different kick on it. But it's got the same damage, basically the same RPM. Mine has rate of fire as an attribute, but otherwise it's the same RPM, 50 in the mag. And the Born Great has a better damage drop off, and that's pretty appealing. With the negative optimal range aside, it still has a better damage drop off and better accuracy and stability. And then we got perfectly nearsighted, so receive 100% stability at the cost of 35% optimal range. And so with a good build, you don't care too much about that drop in optimal range because you're playing usually inside 20 meters for the most part anyways. Most of your shots are taken inside. So, you know, you might be losing a little bit more damage at range, but it's going to be a little of consequence if you got a strong build already. That's what I found from my experience. Let's see what it does. And we'll do 3 mags just like the other ones. I don't think we have to. I think we see what's happening here. And you got to say that's pretty wow. I mean, overall, it's the tightest grouping of the 3. Now, of course, there is a cost to this one, but do you care? Either way, the damage is the same between these 2 weapons, and that is a really, really tight cluster. And so when it comes down to assault rifles, what's more important? Is it accuracy or stability? And for me, I find it's stability, and that's what this weapon brings. It brings a greater stability, right? And what's that stat again? 100% stability. So it's a better stat than the Born Great and the Burnout. Quite amazing. And you can feel this one right away. It's an absolute laser beam. If you haven't used the Glory Days, wow, it's sort of an eye-opener. That's quite impactful. One of the things that's amazing is that stability is there from the first and the last bullet. There is no stacking of it. There's no disabling of it. It's always there. Of course, this is the downside of the optimal range, but do you care if your build is strong enough? I'll leave that to you. On the other end of the spectrum, as far as competitors go, we have the Rail Splitter. And so it's a lot faster of a weapon, so it's gonna have a lower base damage, and then it's got the same mag. It doesn't allow the 8x scope, so that's a downside. It also doesn't allow the laser pointer, another downside. The FAMAS doesn't as well. Now, the G36 or the Born Great does allow both those things. Its accuracy is way better and even better stability right off of the bat, so that's really nice. And it's got a faster reload. We like that. But it has a talent called Perfectly Accurate. It's a very unique talent. You can only get it on this weapon. That's 50% more accuracy. Again, no stacking. It's there on the first and the last round, and so it's always there for you. So let's see what this one can do. All right, so there's no stability modifier here really, so it's a straight vertical rise, but the grouping is going to be tighter than if I was to run a CTAR without perfectly accurate. I think that this recoil pattern is more attractive. It is straight up, where perfectly on empty still pulls pretty hard to the right with a little bit of a zigzag there in the middle. Really interesting to see it compared. Last but not least, steady-handed. So I have the Born Great on the right. On the left is the FAMAS with steady-handed, and steady-handed is probably the most direct competitor to perfect stabilized. They're very similar. Hits grant a stack of 1% accuracy and stability, and at 100 stacks consumes them to refill the mag. One of the biggest difference right off the bat is going to be that steady-handed requires hits, stabilized doesn't, just firing your weapon. Wow, and then steady-handed allows up to 100% accuracy and stability versus 75 from stabilized, and then of course you get the refill when you peak at 100, and then you have to restack again, and again requiring those hits. So the uptime with stabilized is going to actually be way better, and I didn't think it would be, but after thorough testing it ends up being way better than steady-handed. And so that's because steady-handed requires those hits, and then it's going to cycle constant, where stabilized doesn't cycle. And especially when you have the perfect stabilized, then you can maintain an entire control point or mission or whatever, and all you have to do is put out one shot every 6 seconds to maintain it, which is nothing, which is absolutely nothing. Now, steady-handed can be maintained at its current level, whatever that level is. Maybe it's at 50% or 60%, because there's no timer to it. So that's the awesomeness of it. And I thought it was going to be better for legendary, because, you know, you can get suppressed more in legendary. And so because there's no timer, then I thought it would be maybe better and stand out more against stabilized. But because stabilized doesn't require any actual shots landed, it really is easy as blind firing or just putting out one shot to maintain it even when you're suppressed. So it turns out that stabilized is better, and I'm not really looking for that refill on the mag from steady-handed. It's always kind of a nice to have. And also at 75%, your accuracy and stability is so good, you can't really tell the difference between 75 and 100 too much. So for me, it's going to be stabilized over steady-handed. Something you need to know right now is that stabilized, the talent itself is bugged for the recalibration station and library. So you can add it to your library, but you won't be able to use it. So it basically just consumes whatever weapon you're taking it off. And so I've had to craft a few weapons to try to get it on another assault rifle, which is how I got this one here. But I don't have it added to my library yet because it's all bugged out there in the library. And I don't have a full array of weapons to test for you today, the non-perfect talent, just because it's going to be a little bit more reliant on RNG to get those weapons, since I can't craft them or add the talent to an existing weapon that I have. I'm going to walk you through the build right now, but to give you my final thoughts on the weapon, it's double thumbs up. It's a very great addition to the game. I thought it would kind of fall flat because we have steady-handed and they're very similar, and it's probably its most direct competitor. But overall, the uptime on this is absolutely amazing, and I'm a big fan of landing shots, I gotta say. Who isn't? Okay, so a quick look at the build. If you notice here, I did change the mod, so I really like having the Omega suppressor. I think it complements the talent, so it pushes you to almost 100% stability, and that's a really nice place to be. As you can see, my handling bar is maxed out. The only downside of this weapon is I wish it had a faster reload. Now, it doesn't have poor reload. That's on par with all the rest of the assault rifles, but it is what it is. I'm running a really clean setup here for assault rifles with some details that I think complement the weapon itself. So I'm going for striker because I like the additional RPMs and handling, again, to complement what the weapon does. And then striker's gamble gives us the amplified damage of 100 stacks. We got crits here and weapon damage, and then I'm going to go quickly because this is nothing innovative in this part. So we got weapon damage and crit chance for the gloves, and then we got the knees, weapon damage and crit chance, and then we got a little bit of armor here, mostly to protect the shield, and crit damage. Now, I am running the Memento. It complements my gameplay style a lot. You can also go with the striker if you wanted to. That would also work. I do recommend a little bit of armor to protect your shield, but otherwise, this is giving me some armor regen, 30% weapon damage that the enemies can't take away, and then we got skill efficiency also helping the shield and or your heals. And so this also has the 3% armor regen, really good for both offense and defense. Nice complement to really any build. And then the chest piece is the pristine example. So that's probably surprising to you, especially if you're newer to the game. So yes, it has marksman rifle damage, and I'm not running a marksman rifle, and we don't care because that's just 10% additive damage. So it's pretty linear damage, and we don't really care about that. So we got crit damage and crit chance here, but it comes with perfect focus, which is a multiplicative damage. So you get total weapon damage by 6% for every second you are aiming while scoped, 8x or higher, up to to 60% total weapon damage. So that's huge. One of the strongest chest pieces in the game, especially for assault rifles. On very stable weapons, I like running the scope. And I don't feel like the 8x scope is too zoomed in for my gameplay, especially with an assault rifle at 863 RPMs with a 2.2 reload. So the 8x scope allows me to see where my shots are landing better and to adjust better. And on top of that, stabilize does encourage continuous fire. So you're gonna have to watch your ammo, okay? Because you're gonna burn through ammo. Whether you're landing shots or not, you're gonna be burning through ammo. So keep an eye on that. But it's encouraging continuous fire because you're trying to maintain that high stacked stability and accuracy. That kind of complements perfect focus because it's the same thing, because it wants you to stay in scope. It also encourages continuous fire. So we got a little bit of a synergy going there between perfect focus and perfect stabilize. They're both encouraging sustainable damage, and we really like that. And we're getting it at high amounts. For skills, I recommend just a standard fixer drone, and that's gonna get some buffs from the backpack. And then I'm running a standard shield. Because of the ammo issues, you're probably gonna want gunner. It also gives us a 10% armor on kill. And when you're standing still, it's gonna throw 10% weapon handling your way, which will also help your reload accuracy and stability. Be sure to stick around for the bonus build as well. I got another really cool banger for you. So for demonstration purposes, today we will be taking this weapon into heroic and legendary content. And I will walk you through the builds. So of course, with the added stability, I'm gonna be looking for more headshots. And there's that blind fire capability with great accuracy. Pick up some bonus armor. So we're looking at the uptime, okay, of that meter. That's really important because it's a distinction between the perfect and non-perfect version. And might dictate, the uptime might dictate which one you choose to run. And so your options, of course, just to say what they are to run the Born Great with the perfect talent, or to run your favorite assault rifle with the non-perfect talent. My first impressions are a little bit different inside than outside playing the game, so the range. And I gotta say, actually in play, it's more impressive. So I think in a testing range, it's kind of meh, you know, because you shoot paper targets that are standing still, and no matter what weapon you use, your accuracy is gonna be quite good in there. And so, but out here, it's really cool, and it's also really impressive. I'm really impressed with the uptime on this thing. No, not up there, dude. So that timer is so handy, that 6 seconds, I gotta say. A lot of time there. And I'm gonna be honest, like, the G36 is not my favorite weapon in the game. It's not the worst weapon in the game, but I've just never really been impressed with it. It's kind of middle of the road. It's the P416, which I also like, but I usually choose different weapons over it. But man, I think this talent really makes the G36 worth it. Now, it's not a bad weapon. Don't get that impression. That's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of people, in fact, that take the G36 as their favorite weapon in the game, and they have and always have. So there's a lot of people that really like this weapon. It just hasn't really been for me, mostly just because it doesn't stand out. I don't really see much differentiation of it to give me a reason to run it. But now I do, I gotta say, because that talent rocks right there, and the uptime was fantastic. I think we had it active literally the whole control point. Okay, so now we're gonna test this in solo legendary. So, you know, my goal is not to complete this, just to give you a representation of how this weapon performs against these enemies that are tankier and also spritier, I guess. You know, they're always hopping around and moving, and they play very deep, as you can see. And the talent itself, the timer on the talent is going to be pretty important here. And so because you do or can get more suppressed by legendary enemies than potentially heroics, because they have things like these tanks and chungas and whatever. So we're looking at the uptime again of the talent, and then also landing those deep shots, because these guys do play deeper. And I will be sharing all the build details with you, so don't worry. Oh, double reload, that sucks. Go for some headshots here. I don't know how I'm taking damage. He's shooting through cover. That's bull. That other chunk in the back there, he's shooting through those boxes. That's how my shield broke. That's bull. But here we are shieldless. Let's do it. That was happening yesterday too. All right, there it is. So that's, yeah, felt really good. Really easy to maintain. I mean, it allows you to sustain more damage in the form of landing more shots. It's quite impressive, I gotta say. And the G36 has never felt better. I think you have a really good excuse to run the Born Great itself. That extra time, 6 seconds from 4 seconds on the perfect talent, is absolutely worth it. There's nothing that makes me happier than a talent that is fully utilized, and I felt like I fully utilized that talent. Okay, this second build is probably gonna blow a few wigs back, I gotta say. And it's especially good for people who don't like running the 8x scope. So I'm not running an 8x scope. This is just the crit chance scope, and it's got a variable zoom. So I'm zooming in when I am playing a little bit at range, but you don't have to use the scope at all. So if you made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you, because that really helps the channel. And as a thank you, here's a bonus build. And this one might look quirky, but it really does work. It's emphasizing shots on target and also improving the sustained damage on the build. So I'm running Technician, and the reason why is because I decided to go for Spotter on the chest piece. Now that's to give you guys a break, because I'd still personally run Pristine Example, and this build still would work with Pristine Example with Perfect Focus here, okay? But I just know that some of you don't like this scope, so I'm just kind of removing that to give you another look. But if you don't mind the 8x scope, Perfect Focus is the superior build, I would say. However, there is a benefit to running this chest piece, and that is that you're getting 10% armor on kill, because we're running the Ninja Bike backpack. So this is a Ninja Bike build, and that's adding more utility, not damage, to the build. And that's because Striker 3 pieces with that good assault rifle and all the red cores has enough damage on the build where you can solo content pretty nicely here, whether you're doing heroic or legendary. So this just brings more shots on target and better sustained damage. As far as the assault rifle goes, everything is the same, but in the gameplay, you're seeing me run this scope instead, and it's got a variable zoom, 3.4x. That's pretty nice, and you get more crit chance out of it. And then we got the larger mag. Now I got a laser pointer instead of crits here, and I'm still running the additional 20% stability. But look at our reload time. So that's what I've opened up here with this build. It went from 2 seconds to 1.6 seconds, and we could actually make it better and push it down to 1.5, but I'll leave that up to you if it's worth it. I'm on the edge. I can go either way personally. So 20% stability, and then we got perfect stabilize, of course, still, since we're running the same weapon. So that's a big deal. And how did we do that? Well, the Ninja Bike backpack. So the Ninja Bike backpack opens up that bonus slot on all the brand and gear sets. So this has 3 cores as well. I got crit damage here. And then I decided to run hot shots, and not for the marksman rifle damage. We don't care about that. But the 30% weapon handling, oh yeah, we do. That's like putting together perfect stabilized talent and the burnout talent. It's basically like merging those together, except there's no timer on this. You always have 30% weapon handling, and that also includes weapon swap and reload time, as well as stability and accuracy. So there's 30% there. That's why I'm running the Ninja Bike backpack. And then it also turns a 3-piece striker, which is the same as the earlier build. So we got weapon damage and crits all over it, but it turns this into a 4-piece striker. So it's the same as running a 4-piece striker. So it unlocks the talent, which is great. And then the chest piece, again, just a quick look, we get total armor and then armor on kill now, thanks to the Ninja Bike backpack. Full crits. You can actually run armor here. You should run armor there, as a matter of fact. So put on another armor core, not a problem. And then perfect spotter, which is 20% amplified damage. And that's why we're running the laser pointer. And technician. Technician is also making your shield a little bit stronger. So you can see I'm at 3 tiers there. And if you decide to run more armor, you're gonna be at 4. And it does make your heals a little bit stronger. And then you got the armor on kill as well. So it's a pretty well-rounded build. And so you're gonna see less in crit damage here as far as peak values. It's gonna improve shots on target, which is gonna be really hard to measure. I definitely see this improving how this weapon plays out, or other assault rifles play out. It's definitely not a meta build or anything like that. It's actually an off meta build, and a good example of if your build has enough effective damage already on it, you can start bringing in additional points of utility and still perform basically the same. Stats wise, we're at 56% crit chance and 81% crit damage. You could actually swing some crit damage here. Headshot damage at 75%, reload time at 1.6, weapon handling on paper at 45%, stability at 75%, 55% accuracy, but those weapon talents don't show up here, so keep that in mind. Defense, not much to see. We do have the 10% armor on kill. Have you tried the Boring Great yet? I want to know your first impressions. The community wants to hear your feedback, as well as the devs. So be sure to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one.
Follow me.